Welcome back to another edition of the AUDL Take. This will be part 2 of our interview with Cameron Brock. This one is going to be talking about him being a father for the first time. We'll talk about him and his child and how that's affected his workouts and how he's viewing life now that he is a dad. And we'll also be talking about quarantine, how he's been keeping himself busy and entertained through this tough time we're all going through. So let's jump right into it. So, talking about focus, and we're going to shift gears a little bit, but I'm sure a lot of your focus has been shifted now because you just had a son, right?
Yes.
And me too as well, just a week ago. So I'm starting to understand now what people have been talking about when you have a kid. Yep. I kind of want to know what your perspective so far is on like what's been changing as far as your lifestyle, and also kind of move towards maybe how that's been affecting you as far as working out for ultimate season.
Sure. Obviously, working out's really weird for everyone right now with all the COVID stuff. Like gyms aren't open, and you have to kind of be maybe a little creative. So I'm a teacher, which means I'm not working in the school right now. I'm doing like distance learning stuff, and the distance learning stuff definitely does not take up the same amount of time as if I was in school. So I have a lot more time throughout my day that's like quote unquote like free time. But as you said, when you have a kid, especially a newborn, that free time is kind of a gray area.
Sure.
Because I'm on his schedule. Like Calvin runs the house. It's all about what he needs. Sleeping is weird because a lot of people who aren't parents probably don't know this, but you got to get up like every 3 hours to feed them. So we do like, we're on like kind of a 12-3-6-9 schedule. So at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, we're feeding them, or somewhere around there. So, it's like, hey, I went to bed at 1 after I fed him, changed his diaper, got him calmed down, which means I get 2 hours of sleep,
right? Waking
back up, doing it again, going back to getting 2 hours of sleep. Like, you're only sleeping in 2-hour increments, which is awful. You're always tired because you're never getting that like long, deep sleep. Like I could get 8 hours of sleep, but the fact that I'm getting it in 2-hour chunks just makes me still feel exhausted. Yeah. But we've kind of figured it out. He was born on March 6th, so we've had a month and a half to kind of tweak things, figure out the night stuff, figure out ways to sneak in more sleep. And then during the day, my wife and I just kind of trade off. Hey, you're going to work out at this time. I'm going to go work out at this time. I've been doing a lot of running. I think ultimate wise, like, weight room stuff's definitely important, can definitely make you a better player. But when it comes down to it, the most important thing is being able to run and being able to run for long periods of time without getting tired, and being able to sprint and change directions without your legs giving out. So I have a soccer complex that's right around the corner from my neighborhood. I go over there and do some sprint workouts. I'll do just running around my neighborhood. I've mapped out a couple different paths that I know exactly what the distance is. It's always really windy where I live. We just moved into a house recently. And it is super windy where I live all the time, like always at least a 15 mile per hour wind. So I'm getting some good wind throwing practice, which is nice, and also a lot of sprinting into the wind, which adds a little bit of extra into the workout. But that's really what it's about. I'm doing some body weight exercises around the house, like just trying to keep the muscles somewhat there. Right. But it's mostly about the running for me right now, and just trying to make sure that when we get out to that first practice, I'm not huffing and puffing and feeling like I'm going to pass out. And I think that's probably where a lot of people are. If you don't have access to weights or anything, you got to be out and run. You just got to get out there. And that's not the most fun workout for most people. Sure. I kind of enjoy the challenge of it. I come from a soccer background where I was doing a lot of running already. So just trying to make sure I'm getting out at least 6 days a week and running. I think so far in April, I've missed 1 day. So I'm like I'm after this, I'm going to go work out. I'm actually going to go get my run in and get a nice long stretch and some core exercises today. So, it's not the same as hitting the gym. It's not the same as getting out and going to practice, but you got to find any way you can to stay in shape.
I think you kind of hit it on the nose, though. As far as an ultimate player, I feel like the base is always endurance and cardio. I mean, if you can at least start there and keep that somewhat maintained, getting back to the gym and all that, yeah, you're a little bit behind, but it's if once you lose that endurance and that core, that's a lot to have to come back from.
Oh yeah, it's not fun to get out of shape and then try to get back into shape. I always tell people the easiest way to be in shape is to stay in shape, because if you get out of shape, it's the worst. Like when I just had that 2 weeks where I couldn't work out when I had the stroke, like coming back from that, just 2 weeks of doing nothing was awful. So like I've made it a goal every year. Like when the AUDL season's over, for instance, like I'm not playing club this year. So like after AUDL season's over, I will take 2 or 3 days off.
Right.
And then I'm back in the gym, back outside running, because you just, as nice as it would be to take like a month off, it just like, then you're spending 2 months making up for the month you took off, or is, it's just, stay in shape. That's my message to all the kids too. You don't want to, if you don't want to get out of shape, just stay in shape. Like it's much easier than getting back into shape, I promise you.
Yeah, it's exponential when you get older. I felt like when I was in my early 20s, I could take a week off and then come back and I'd be pretty okay. Now it's like I hit 30 this past year. I take a week off. It's 3 weeks of just getting back to where I was that week.
Oh yeah, it's awful. I'm 31, so I hear you loud and clear. Like I feel the exact same way.
And talking about with the baby and the sleep schedule, I've never been a coffee drinker, never really liked it. When we were in the hospital, it was the first night with the baby and he was wailing a bunch. And the next morning they brought us both cups of coffee. And I remember like the doctors were coming in, you have doctors coming in constantly doing tests and stuff. They would be talking to me and I'm like, I'm trying to get what they're saying to me, but I'm like half falling asleep because I, like I said, I mean, you may get 6 to 8 hours total, but you're maybe only getting an hour at a time, 2 hours. We had that cup of coffee and I remember this is the first time I really had it because I don't drink it. The next doctor came in and I was just wide-eyed, ready to go. I was like, I can hear everything. I understand everything you're saying. Literally, as that doctor left, we got online and bought a Keurig. So a Keurig now, and I'm like drinking 2 cups of coffee a day just to keep myself going.
I still am not a coffee drinker. Like I'm kind of the same way. I just never was. But I have found ways to get caffeine into my system when I need it. That's for sure. Yeah. Luckily, with the relaxed work schedule I have right now, it's like I can be sleepy. And so sometimes I'll just be like, you know what? I'm tired, but that's okay to be tired. I'm just going to lay around with Calvin next to me and maybe we'll both snooze, take a little nap. And yeah, I'm really excited to just, kind of, I want to take him out to his first game. My mom sent a onesie that she made and it says Alley Kitten on the chest, like take him out, put him in that. I think at championship weekend this year, I think it was Dylan Larberg has a kid and saw him on the field with his kid like after the game, and I was like, man, that's so cool. And we hadn't announced yet, but I knew already at that point that we were having a kid. And I was just thinking like, man, I hope next year when we have our kid that I can bring my kid to championship weekend and be out on like, that just seems really cool. You see like pro athletes like NFL, like Drew Brees after they won the Super Bowl with his kid out on the field and stuff like that. Just a cool moment. I hope I get to share that with Calvin someday if we can make it back to championship weekend, just be out on the field with him. Just think that'd be kind of a cool experience. Like watching Dylan last year, knowing that I was going to be a dad soon. I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool moment that I hope to have with my son someday.
Yeah, hopefully you can actually be playing in it as well and make it even a better experience. Well, with everybody being quarantined right now, like you were saying, there's a lot of things we want to like. I haven't even been able to really take my kid outside. I think we're going to do our first stroller, but we're doing it like just a tiny little bit of a block. But what's it like being kind of quarantined? What have you been doing to kind of keep yourself entertained as far as just fun stuff to do and maybe stuff that you're doing with Calvin?
Yeah. So Calvin's starting to be a little more alert, so we can kind of play with him a little bit. He's still only a month and a half, so he's not like, we can't really do too much with him right now. But I've been playing video games. Like I've been playing League of Legends for a long time. I've been playing with some friends on there. I actually, the AUDL put together a Discord server for players to connect and play games with each other. So I've been playing League with Paul Reynaud from Ottawa. I hope I'm saying his last name right. I actually meant to ask him before it came on. Huh?
I know who you're talking about. I don't know if you said it right, but I know who you're talking
about. We've been playing a lot of League together. He's a cool guy. It's been kind of cool to meet him through gaming. I have been writing a lot and reading, and I am an English teacher, so I like to read and write. And that's kind of been taking up a lot of my time. A lot of Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, all that good stuff. Right. I just binge watched Friday Night Lights for the second time.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big Explosions in the Sky fan, the music in that, so it's awesome.
Yeah, so I just a lot of the same things I think a lot of people are doing, just reading, writing, video games, and binging shows, and then just trying to make sure I get out for a workout at least once a day. The weather's been kind of crappy here.
Oh, really?
We've had, it was snowing just a couple days ago. We were up in the 80s last week, and then we were down in the low 30s for a few days. So it's just kind of all over the place. But even on those days where it's really cold, trying to force myself to get out and run in that and just make sure I'm moving. But honestly, the days all kind of melt together right now, and I'm sure you're experiencing this too. When you have a kid, a young kid especially, and you're on that schedule where you have to feed them all the time, and you kind of always have to be doing whatever they want to do, every day just melts together, and you end up with a lot of small pockets of time where you don't want to do anything because you're like, I could start doing something, but I know in 45 minutes I'm going to have to feed him, and it could be a little earlier, so I don't want to get invested in something and then have to be torn away from it. So it's hard because you want to do things, but you just know that at any moment you might have to stop what you're doing to put your attention on him, and which is totally fine, but it just kind of makes it hard to get invested in things sometimes because you don't want to get interrupted. So
well, I grew up most of my life in Ohio, so I'm used to that spring weather just kind of being all over the place usually. It sucks that I live in Atlanta now, and it's been raining pretty much all up until the quarantine, and then as soon as quarantine came in, it has been the most beautiful, perfect weather, and it's really making me angry because I'm still getting workouts and stuff in as well, but I just want to go be able to sit and have brunch or something like that. And it's like, man, why can't it just be rainy like it was before?
Yeah.
But what is the one thing you definitely miss the most since you've been kind of cooped up now in the quarantine?
Pick up basketball.
All right.
I think I actually sent out a tweet about this yesterday. I was like, I just want to go play some pickup basketball. I play every Friday morning with some teachers at the school. We get there early before school starts and play for about 45 minutes to an hour. And I know there's some places that sometimes during spring break or stuff that I'll go and play. In the mornings, there's places like a church that has a pickup game out from 6 to 8 a.m. I just kind of miss playing basketball. Basketball is my first love as far as sports go. I've always loved playing basketball, watching basketball. When I was in college, I would play anywhere from 12 to 15 hours a week at the co-rec. So I would go as soon as classes were out, go play, go to ultimate practice. Sometimes I'd go after ultimate practice, depending on the day, or it's definitely during the winter when we weren't practicing as much. I was just there. I lived at the gym to play basketball, and I miss that. Just being able to get out and compete in anything really physically. I'm enjoying playing games with friends and stuff, but there's something about being able to physically be out somewhere running around, being there face to face with the person you're going against. So I'm really looking forward to that first day that we're able to go back to practice and really just be, physically engaged with the rest of the guys on the team and just really try to, I don't know, just kind of get back to things as usual, right?
As close as possible.
Yeah. How about you? What are you missing?
Most of it, I'm ultimate pretty much. I literally signed up for spring league, had one weekend because it was winter break, so there's really not a lot of ultimate going on, and I'm pretty busy during the week with work, and so weekends were really just the time to go out and do exercise and play Ultimate. And got one game in spring, and then everything closed down. So, yeah, that was kind of a bummer for me because that's, most of the time during the week, going to the gym, working out. I play some video games. A lot of things didn't really change that much. But yeah, just for me, getting out and I think what really bums me now is because I was very excited to have my son and to take him on weekends to watch and go play Ultimate and then go hang out afterwards at a restaurant or something like that and just have him experience that. So that's kind of my biggest thing right now, is just not being able to do the things I've been looking forward to do with him since I knew he was coming. But I just know that, I'm trying to hang in there, and I think things will get to somewhat normalcy here soon. So
yeah, I'm trying to look at it from a positive perspective too, because with the quarantine and being home, I'm able to spend all this time at home with Calvin, where otherwise I was going to take 2 weeks off, have my 2-week spring break, and then be back at school. So it's a unique experience, especially in this country, for dads to be able to spend this much time at home with their kids. So for me, I'm going to be home with him all the way until at least late July. But honestly, I don't think we'll be back in school, like physically, when school starts back up for us. So I might be with him all the way until like September or whenever we end up going back to school. So to be here for the first full 5 or 6 months of his life without having to be gone all the time is kind of a cool thing. Even if it is in a very not cool circumstance.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to look at that, how beneficial I hope that is, and just being able to it also just allows me to spend more time with my wife and help her out, because she would have had a lot of that pressure being home alone for the rest of her maternity leave, trying to figure that out. And now that we're both home, and then when she goes back to work, she'll be working from home probably for a while, and I'll be, obviously as a teacher, I don't work after the from June and July, I'm off anyways. So that is a cool thing. That's a cool side effect, I guess, of this whole thing, is just being able to spend more time with family. Kind of stinks that grandparents can't be as involved. But as far as us, it's awesome. Yeah. Has your kids' grandparents been able to visit at all, or probably not?
So, all of my family lives in Ohio, so I see them maybe once a year. So they're gonna have to wait a little bit. Her parents live about 30 minutes away, but still, no one's seen him in person since he's been born. And we're we have a family member who lives near us who actually has COVID. So we're definitely we'll be extra careful because who they were in contact with. So we're just kind of come to terms with it might not be till June or July before he really gets any contact with anybody. But that's just kind of how it goes. It's like you said, it kind of feels weird being it's kind of great now I get to stay home with him. But then you're like, but there's some people, this is the worst thing that could be happening to them. So it is kind of this weird feeling. But hey, man, I want to thank you so much for doing this interview. I really hope that you guys are able to stay safe through this, and that hopefully on the other end of this, we'll be able to kind of be back to normal. Everybody will be healthy, and we can have maybe an AUDL season this year. But if not, I really want to just be able to have everyone be safe, get back to Ultimate, and we can start playing again. And I want to see you in action as well.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy talking to you, catching up since the last time I saw you in person back in 2015. And I enjoy what you're doing on the show, and excited to see the new episodes you put out, and also, like you said, excited to hopefully have an AUDL season this year. I do think we'll have one, but we're gonna have to wait and see. We're gonna have to wait and see. So.
All right. Well, thanks, man.
Yep. Thank you.
And that wraps up our whole interview. It's the end of part 2. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the interview, and I look forward to continuing bringing you awesome content here on the AUDL Take.